Sunday. My name is Tim Brennan, and I am a longtime 20-year plus resident of the city of Riverview. I'm making this video today to help try and inform those of you who don't have the time to go get the information for Tuesday's election. Hopefully, the information I provide here will help guide you to make the right decision for yourself and for your family. After all, that's what elections are for. A little bit of background on me, so you know that I'm just not a faceless internet something putting out random information. I'll give you a little bit of background of who I am. I'm a 20-plus year resident of the city of Riverview. My first apartment was at Green Trees Apartment way back in the early 90s. I moved out to Westland for a year, but then came back to Riverview, rented a house for a few years, and then bought the house I come to you today for. I've been in this house for 20-plus years. I've raised my family here. My wife and I spent years and years helping with youth sports. I spent 20 years out on the diamonds and on the football fields, helping the junior football teams, helping the RBA, and then later on helping tournament softball. I did all that because I felt it was the best way I could help the city. It's the best way that I could be a productive member of our good little town, our great little town. I purposely chose to stay out of politics because I don't like politics. Those of you who watch the city council meetings know that I've been there in the last couple ones, and both times I spoke, and both times I started with the statement of, I don't want to be here. And I don't. I don't like politics. I don't like the kind of games that get played in politics, and I don't like the way politics go. I'm a very straightforward guy. I don't have time for nonsense. I don't have time to, sit there and wonder if what I'm doing, makes sense or all that. You get the idea. I don't need to go into details. What I can do, though, and now that I'm retired from the youth sports game, what I can do, though, is I'm decent at a computer. It's what I do for a living. I can go find the information needed. I can go vet the data that you're getting through the residence page, through YouTube, through whatever else. And that's what I've done here. I'm going to provide 4 different topics, and I'm sorry for the long video. I know that, there's some unwritten rule that says videos must be 5 minutes or less. This one will not be 5 minutes or less. I apologize for that. But if you want to be informed about Tuesday's election, I can't be limited to a 5-minute video. So today's topics, we're going to discuss the budget crisis, how we got here, and we're going to compare Riverview's issues versus some other cities downriver of comparable size. We're going to look at the landfill expansion topic and how it got to where it's at today, and how it impacts the budget crisis we're having today. We're going to talk about the dispensaries and what a farce that was, and how it got to where it is today. And then we're going to talk about the toxic lands that we have here in Riverview. There's 2 sites, plus possibly a third. And again, I have a presentation for that to kind of give you the information that I've heard. In this presentation, we're going to review the Riverview finances from 2015 through 2022. That is a 7-year span. The source for all information contained in this presentation was captured from the Michigan Community Financial Dashboard. This is a website that has been vetted and verified as the data supplied to the Michigan Department of the Treasury from the city of Riverview and all other cities referenced in this presentation. We are focusing solely on spending versus revenue only. We don't get into the details. We just look at the bottom line. If you look at Riverview spending over the course of that span, you can see that there's only 1 year where Riverview takes in more revenue than they spend. The rest of the years in that span, we are in the negative. And that has produced a cumulative negative balance of $18 million. That means since the year 2015 until now, we have spent $18 million more than we've taken in. In comparison, when you look at Southgate, which has twice the residencies that we have, they have positive balance of 22 million over the same span. When you get into Woodhaven, Woodhaven has a resident count roughly equivalent to Riverview. They are in the negative, although they are not 18 million in the negative, they are only 2.5 million in the negative over the same span. Flat Rock, which has less residents than Riverview does, only has 1 year of negative spending, and that was during the pandemic. They appear to be the model that you should want to follow, as from 2015 to 2022, they look to have a net gain of $16 million. With all that in mind, the ongoing questions in this city, and these questions have been asked over and over again. Why doesn't the city produce quarterly financial reports as required by the city charter? We have a resident that has been going to every council meeting forever asking that same question, and he has as of yet to get that report. Another question that came up from the website openthebooks.com was payments to Go Big Media, the publisher of the Riverview Register. Payments in excess of $100,000 from 2018 through 2020. In city council meetings over that time, and even this year, those contracts were only supposed to be worth $18,000 a year or something close to that, and yet there's a $100,000 spend listed by openthebooks.com. Openthebooks.com has been, again, a vetted and validated resource, and nobody from the city has answered yes or no to the question. And that question simply is, did the city of Riverview spend over $100,000 with Go Big Media from 2018 to 2020? Another question that came up as part of the Go Big Media debate was, does the city receive itemized bills from our legal firm? This legal firm has been representing the city for, I believe, 20 plus years. And there is a question as to whether or not they are producing itemized bills. Again, this question went completely ignored at the study session where it was asked. And then the final question is, how much taxpayer money was invested in the failed landfill expansion? The rumors around the city have anywhere between $6 million and $12 million, but nobody seems to know for sure how much that was. Has there been any independent oversight on this? Has there been any reports delivered by the city that state how much money was invested in this failed landfill expansion? And then the final topic here is, what is next? In the fall of 2023, all residents were sent an emergency assessment notification that was meant to fund our basic services. Basic services, what is that? Well, it's our police force. So we are now being told that we have to have an emergency tax hike on our property taxes to cover funding our most basic services. This isn't recreation department. This isn't, putting a new fountain in or sprucing up the city or building something. This is basic services, an emergency tax assessment. With that in mind, what's next? Are there more taxes on the way? That answer has not been had yet. Some residents claim that Riverview is close to state receivership, which basically means the state will come over and take over our city and either divide it up between the cities around us or simply take over the city. Is that a possibility? Due to the debt restructuring plan that we've submitted to the state, a plan that they required we submit, apparently, is it possible that the state will take over the city? And over the summer, we all had this endless argument online about dispensaries. We all know they will not cover the landfill revenue losses. Because of that, our taxes will have to go up, but nobody knows how much or when. So these three items are what's next. The landfill expansion has been a huge debate in the city for many years now. The overriding feeling is that the landfill is dead. It cannot be saved, and the revenue from this venture is about to dry up. And given that the city cannot get the county to approve expansion, it looks like that will exactly be the case. The sources of information that I'm posting here is all available online, and I will make them available to you at the end of this video. Those sources of information include the Detroit News, the News Herald, the Downriver Sunday Times. There is a website for Stephanie Chang, where she voiced her opposition to it, and of course the local ABC affiliate has stories on this as well. As already stated, there was endless opposition to this landfill expansion. Rumor has it that Woodhaven, Brownstown, and Trenton all opposed the expansion, and when they could vote against it, they did. Wayne County denied numerous applications by city leaders in Riverview for expansion. This went on at least twice that I'm aware of. I think a third time possibly was done. I'm not sure. I did not see any online information for that. I do remember a huge push by Riverview residents, especially those adjacent neighborhoods to this expansion where they did not want this to occur. There was many discussions online. Huge opposition by Riverview residents to deny this expansion. And as already stated, Stephanie Chang, a Democrat, Michigan State Senator, opposed this expansion as well. Some questionable aspects of this. Apparently there was a land purchase as part of this expansion effort. New property was bought by the city to satisfy county access requirements that came up. Attempts to rezone that new property apparently failed. And that land that was purchased doesn't appear to be part of the city of Riverview. It looks like it falls under the Brownstown Township jurisdiction. So in an effort, a failed effort, to expand our landfill, city leaders went out and bought property in another city. Of course, all this raises questions. How much taxpayer money was used to purchase that land and the overall expansion effort? How much money was spent? Why do our neighboring cities reject all our proposals? Do we not get along with Trenton, Brownstown, and Woodhaven? It certainly seems like we don't. They have fought us every step of the way on most of this stuff. And multiple applications have been submitted to the county and denied. Is the city leaders that they just don't get the message? The county will not allow expansion of this landfill. And yet we're spending money and time in a failed effort to get the landfill expanded. Riverview Dispensaries, a very, very big hot button topic for all of 2023. Sources of information for this particular topic are basically just from the News Herald. I was only able to find a single article on this related to the fact that dispensary fees will simply not replace the landfill profits, which, shouldn't be a shock to anybody. Other than that, there wasn't too much information online. I can only give you what was either delivered to our homes as flyers or what was said in public meetings. And let's speak about these endless flyers that we all received throughout the course of the summer. Leading up to the August 8th primary, which also included a referendum on dispensaries, we all received multiple sets of these, I'll use the term loosely, flyers, which contained constant political propaganda and lies. Nothing in any of these flyers were ever provable. Nothing in any of these flyers had any data to back them up. This was nothing more than pure propaganda delivered to our residents time and time again. And while they were wildly laughed at across the city as the broken propaganda that they were, it still showed just how desperate people were to either promote these things or deny these things. Whether you support dispensaries or not is irrelevant. Lying to the residents of the city is why a lot of people, especially me, got involved in all this to begin with. This was blatant propaganda meant to benefit certain candidates trying to get back into city politics. And because of all this, the ordinance written to support these dispensaries became wildly unpopular, and understandably so. There were aspects of this ordinance that a lot of people didn't like. So let's go through the facts. The city established a committee to write this ordinance. Once the ordinance was written, the city council voted on it. The ordinance did not limit the number of stores that the city could have, but it did limit the distance between stores. So while there wasn't a written limit of number of stores, there was certainly a limit of stores that could be done. Now that's a confusing statement, so let me say it again. You could get endless applications for these dispensaries, but due to space limitations in the city, there is no way you would have endless side-by-side dispensaries in the city. So the term Riverview, which was a wildly popular insult basically put towards us for the majority of the summer, was never possible. Because there's physical space limitations in a 4 square mile city, there is a limit as to how many of these stores you could get. When it was all said and done, the ordinance passed 4-3 in city council chambers, and as of November 2023, only one store is ready for operation. The questions raised in this one: why did the city attorneys insist on no application limits? In my research with cities around downriver and even cities like Westland, for instance, I read theirs in detail. All those cities put a limit as to how many stores they would allow in their city. And for some reason, our city attorneys insisted that we could not put limits on the store count simply because it would incur lawsuits, I guess, is the rumor. I don't know. But I do know that the city attorneys basically recommended to the committee that they not put a limit on the amount of applications that the city could get. That is a serious question that I don't think we'll ever get an answer to, but it was raised before the August 8th primary. Riverview's toxic lands. This has become, again, another hot button topic as of late, and rightfully so. For decades now, Riverview has had major parts of the city with questionable contamination, questionable toxic waste buried there, and not a lot of answers from city leaders. So let's get into this. What you're looking at here is a map of the city, at least half of the city anyways, and what it is the Detroit River, which is over here, up to 4th Street. And in this section of the city, you have 3 sites that people are questioning. So let's start with the first one that everybody knows the most. What's called I believe it's called the Arkema site. And it's a fenced-in parcel of land between Pennsylvania and car parks. This is a huge parcel of land that has been fenced off for 63 years with no changes. Across the railroad tracks from Arkema, is the old chemical plant. Now I know this as ATO Chem. When I was working with Riverview Baseball and junior football to do yearly golf outings back in the early 2000s, ATO Chem was a huge sponsor of those events. This is where their chemical plant was. It closed at some point, and again, about 20 years ago, and has been an eyesore ever since. Again, we have no idea what's on that site. We have no idea if there's toxic waste there or not. I can only tell you that it was a chemical plant at one point. The third highlighted area I list as unknown. I don't know anything about this other than Huntington Creek runs through here, and it runs all the way out to the city boat launch. And my understanding is all this land is questionable. Now, I could be wrong. I freely admit that. I don't know for sure. There are people better than me that can answer that question for you. What I do want to point out is look at these three sites and look at the relationship to residential areas and our high school complex where our kids go to school. If we have questionable lands that close to our residents and to our children, I would think we would get action on these sites. We have 3 major sites with potential contamination. No action taken by this city government in decades here. And I don't care about phone calls, and I don't care about what you tried. I only care about what got done. Nothing has been done. All these sites are within a quarter mile of residential zones, and all 3 sites are within at least a mile of our only high school. At some point, our city leaders need to stop saying this topic is too big, we can't do this, or they need to stop saying Facebook rants won't matter. It is this simple. It only matters what you get done. It doesn't matter what you say. So let's talk about some details here. We have, like I said, no progress in decades. Somebody called Debbie Dingle's office, and of course she issued an election year statement that she's going to clean things up. Well, she's been in office for a decade too, and her family's been in office since World War II, and they have done nothing. So election year statements are meaningless. Nobody has asked, how did Trenton manage to get their steel site cleaned up, yet we can't clean up anything in Riverview? We have to listen to endless excuses about how it's too big of a problem. So the steel plant and that site, which is bigger than anything we have, can be cleaned up, but ours can't. That's an interesting solution. It's an interesting answer. As I stated earlier, this Artemis site's been fenced off for 63 years at least. The chemical plant closed 20 years ago. No improvements on either site. There are multiple YouTube videos that were created. I did one, and another resident did another one. I will put links to those along with this in the online posting. One thing I did learn through all of this is apparently the EPA is about to dredge the Detroit River in something called the Black Lagoon. I have no details on that other than the name. But apparently, as they dredge this Black Lagoon on the river, they're going to put that dredged material at the Arkema site for temporary storage. And the statement I read was they couldn't begin to clean up the Arkema site until 2027 simply because they're going to use it for temporary storage of dredged materials. I find that to be a completely unacceptable solution on every level. Not only are they not going to clean Arkema up, but they're going to put more toxic waste on it as a temporary measure. And our city leaders are sitting back saying there's nothing we can do about that. So now that you've been through the presentations, let me give you a quick summary of what I've seen in the last 6 months. This campaign has been about as toxic as it gets. I've been a resident of the city, like I said, for 20 years. I've never seen the inhumane treatment I've seen of people throughout this election cycle. And I'm not complaining about just me. I don't care. A lot of people attack me all the time. It doesn't bother me. I post the information I find. A lot of people come out and they attack me in support of whatever they're trying to do, and it doesn't bother me. In all the months, and some of you have been watching my posts for months, and in all that time, not a single person has been able to debunk anything I've posted. I go to great lengths to verify the information I bring to you. If anybody has any kind of proof that what I've posted over the last 6 to 8 months, whatever it is wrong, please come forward, show me. I'm always willing to listen. But, just like some of the candidates like to say, I give you what I get. If you attack me, I will attack back. That's how life goes. I give what I get. If you're nice and respectful to me, I'm nice and respectful to you right back. And speaking of being nice and respectful, to the people who put out these anonymous flyers this week, you are pathetic and you're a coward. Period. Everything I post, I stand behind. I put my face on it. That's why I'm making this video. I would never, in a million years, try to send the residents of this city an anonymous flyer. If you're not man enough to stand behind your words, then you shouldn't send it to the residents of the city. You should respect them more. And to those who knew this was coming and did nothing to stop it, shame on you. You don't deserve to serve this city if you knew this was coming and didn't try to stop it. This is why politics has the ugly face that it does, and it's why a lot of good people in this city, and I'm not talking about me, I don't consider myself a good person, but there's a lot of good people in this city who would run but won't go through this meat grinder, because there are people in this city who do the cowardly, inhumane act that went on this week. And to Chuck Norton and to Nicole, you have at least my sincere apologies for getting put through this unnecessary, cowardly act. And what does this mean, residents? What does this mean for all of us? It means we need to go out and vote. These city votes often are decided by 50 to 60 votes. Your next mayor, your next councilman, it's going to be a dozen votes, it's going to be 100 votes, it's going to be something ridiculously small. And I'm here to say, and this is why I do all this, I'm here to tell you to take back your city. Make the changes needed to get through this next round of growth in the city. The landfill is dead. It cannot continue. We have to find new ways to survive. We have to find new revenue streams. We have to build parts of the city. And we can only do that by fixing what's broke. I outlined 4 items. 2 of the 4 are very fixable. The budget's very fixable, and so is these toxic sites. And they go hand in hand. So let's put people in city government who's going to stop having excuses on this stuff. Let's put people in city government who get action done. The city of Trenton can fix McLeod Steel, but we can't fix a site half that size in Arkema. I don't want to hear the excuses anymore. If I took these results to my supervisor at work, I wouldn't have a job. It's time to put people in positions where they get the job done. I hope this information gives you enough to make that decision, and I hope you vote on Tuesday. Have a great weekend.